pirates plunder. They can sail the seas, they can loot ships, both in real life and in Skull and Bones. But did you know they also make great private investigators? At least in Skull and Bones. Probably not in real life. Now you see, up until this point, if you've seen all the previous Skull and Bones videos, and if you haven't, go check them out, I've done all the traditional pirate things you can do in Skull and Bones. So I decided to try my hand at a new mission type in the game, called investigations. Now you see, investigations are a series or a string of quests that send you off to various islands, uncovering a mystery that's been plaguing the inhabitants of the Indian Ocean for centuries. And so, I decided to do just that. Go off on my own adventure and follow one of those quests to completely finish and uncover an investigation. So, not only can I add pirate to my resume, but I can now also add private investigator, at least in game. But before I can actually get to that promotion, I have to fix up my ship first. All my previous battles have beaten down the hull just a little bit, and since I've got new upgraded cannons I can add, I go ahead and add them. After all, I'm gonna need the firepower if I'm gonna be uncovering hidden secrets and mysteries all across the Indian Ocean. Plus, why not make my ship look nice in the process? And my crewmates too, but I don't think they'll like those outfits too much. Once my ship is actually decked out and ready, I pick up the investigation to begin with, called The Fall of Lenitria. Now this quest actually sends me off to an island I've already been to before, the ruins of Lenitria. Apparently Lenitria was a ruined island that used to be a pirate haven, but at some point was betrayed and destroyed by the British. So I set sail in my dhow, and on my way to Lenitria, go ahead and pick off a few animals. After all, I do still have a quest that requires me to pick off some wildlife and hand it in for a reward, so why not go ahead and kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Or 2 sharks with 1 spear, I guess. Although, I definitely use more than 1 spear, as you can clearly see. Also, that's a crocodile, not a shark. I'm a little bit ways away from the place I need to be at over at the Isle of Lenitria, but that's just fine, because I have plenty of provisions and food to be able to get away. Or, ships like this can just get out of my way, which also helps out. And I'm really glad I'm not on that ship. Great shot, and I'm glad I'm not involved in it. In fact, even that guy doesn't want to be involved in it. He's sailing away. With all the wildlife I need successfully hunted, I head back to St. Anne and go ahead and cook up some shark meat, since I'm gonna need all the food and provisions I can get if I'm heading all the way out to the ruins of Lenitria and plan on solving this mystery. I go ahead and swap back into my actual ship this time and set a marker over for a nearby sea people settlement on my way over to Lenitria. There, once I interact with Palisade Bay, which thankfully I'm at peace with, I can finally give in the quest for all of those animals I was able to kill, and get a little bit of loot in the process, before finally landing at the ruins of Lenitria. Now, the ruins themselves are really ruined. There's skeletons hanging from old ships, and a rope just hanging here, which I can do a sickle trick down while I fail a contract that I didn't know I had. Now once I get on the isle, I somehow come across a newspaper that's in perfect condition that no one else somehow noticed, in which after I start to read the newspaper, sends me off to the French island of Guérande, again, which I went to last time. So I throw some powder into the pirate's bonfire to get a stamina boost for my ship, since I'm gonna need it, especially if I'm gonna be raiding a fort. Once I get to Guérande, which ironically I actually set fire to in the last episode, there's all those French ships back in port just hanging out. And they are not gonna be hanging out for long. Once I fire off an opening salvo, I decide to ram the ship since they were just kind of sitting there and doing nothing. And it's pretty easy for my little elastic hooks to sink right into them. I go ahead and knock out 2 more of these French merchant ships that are just kind of hanging out before finally plundering Guérande. Now you see, I need to plunder Guérande because apparently the investigation says that Skurlock was hanging out at Lenitria at the time of its collapse, and that only Guérande has the information I would need. So, time to raid them down for it, and raid this ship down for it, even though I have no need for it. In fact, on the bright side, it isn't actually an allied pirate that's helping me raid the fort of Guérande, even though I don't think he gets anything out of it. So, while my pirates go ahead and find a crate full of different beers and bring that aboard, I get to have my own little quest satisfied, and get the letter that I needed from Guérande. Once I land back in the Red Isle, I go ahead and pick up another job at the recent job board, which is to supply coconuts to the person directly above, which I guess is an easy 900 silver, so I can't really complain too much. Stupid quest, but hey, it got me to break it, which is the infamy limit actually for the open beta, which thankfully doesn't apply anymore because the full game is now out. And you see, actually once I got to that level, I was able to unlock some of the endgame content for Skull and Bones, being an organization called Taking the Helm. Now you see, this quest actually leads me to the Helm, which is the organization proper. And once I receive the quest and move forward with it, I go into the back room of St. Anne, where I uncover an entire operation that apparently has been going on behind the scenes this entire time. When they said there was endgame content, I didn't think they meant it was literally at the end of the bar in St. Anne. Going around, part of this endgame content means I get to go ahead and make rum, which I can sell for a profit or a special currency called the Helm tokens. But before I can do any of that, I actually have to get the ingredients to make the rum to begin with, which means getting sugarcane, which also means sailing almost 15,000 miles in a different direction, because since I'm now going on dangerous smuggling operations, I figure I need a better ship, which I can only get if I travel to an island that's 15,000 miles away. Thankfully, the journey itself is actually not too bad. Along the way, I actually find a Dutch fort and settlement, which is a first for the open beta and my entire Skull and Bones adventure. But it's a little overleveled for me, and I can't really get anything out of it. So I finally land 15,000 miles later on the exact island I need to go on to get the blueprints for an upgraded ship. Once I go ahead and go to the shipwright of this island, which is pretty close to the one in St. Anne, I'm able to go ahead and pick up some ingredients I'm going to need in order to get the new ship, which is called the Padawakang, I think. But I decided that a new ship isn't the only thing I want. After all, the clothes make a captain. So I head over to the cosmetics shop that's also on this island, just like St. Anne, and decide to go ahead and pick up some new clothes for myself. If I'm going to get a new upgraded ship, I might as well look the part. As always, I kind of go for a generic jacket look, but get a nice little bigger hat, because bigger hat says bigger man, right? And I go ahead and strut my stuff directly out of the cosmetics shop, and right back to the harbor. It's nighttime by the time I get to the harbor, so wow, I really spent a lot of time in that cosmetics shop. And once I'm there, apparently a death mark was on me and expired twice. It was great. Once the death mark message goes away, I go ahead and find a ship that I actually need in order to get those supplies for the new upgraded ship. And along the way, there are even the trees I need to make those planks. So, all in all, things are looking pretty great. And in fact, in the distance, there are two enemy ships that are attacking each other, and ironically, I need both of them to plunder their loot to be able to get the ingredients for the ship. So it's just a happy coincidence that they both go down right in the sea and I get all of their loot. In the distance, rather than fighting this entire settlement for the resources I would need to craft the ship, I go ahead and buy them while another settlement and tower fires away at me. An allied pirate tries to help me out, but it doesn't really work out all that well. It's kind of unfortunate that that ship NPC took the exact same tactic I've used on ships previously in this game, and even that ship blows up in the end anyway, so all is fair, unlike that ship, who blows up anyway. And speaking of blowing up, you too can go ahead and help my channel blow up by hitting that subscribe button below, liking the video, and maybe checking out a bunch of the other videos that I posted on the channel. In fact, the last Skull and Bones videos, in fact the last few of them, I got a lot of support from you guys, which I really appreciate, and encourages me to go ahead and make more content. It's nice to know that people are actually watching these things. So, if you actually like this video, and you're new to the channel, once again, hit that subscribe button, and like the video. It really does help out, and it's nice to see that the channel does kind of grow, and that people enjoy the content. Both long-time users of the channel, or even if you're new and this video just randomly popped up in your suggested feed. In which case, hey, what's up? And thanks for staying as long as you have. It takes a lot of effort, actually, to last like 11 minutes into a video. So, thanks. So, once I go ahead and blow up, but thankfully respawn at the cost of a little bit of silver, I land on a nearby island, where this French company officer is around. So I go ahead and throw some dust in my eyes to forget I ever saw him. I mean, he's not really doing anything for me anyway. In fact, the guy down below on the shore is giving me more information and more equipment by giving me a torpedo 2 blueprint and a bunch of different ammunition crates. So, since this island is a bit of a bust and isn't really helping me out when crafting my new ship, I decided to set sail for another one, where there's an enemy ship nearby that I do actually need in order to craft more equipment for that ship. But unfortunately, he's a lot more powerful than I was hoping he would be. And in fact, to be fair, at this point, I'm also still running like one of the beginner ships, so kinda makes sense that I'm not going toe-to-toe with this guy. Or this guy, who's like GTA style, just like ramming my ship. Thankfully I learned from last time and actually braced it this time. Now, the biggest problem here comes not only in these ships just like harassing me and constantly bumping right into me, but that giant ship in the background that is borderline invincible. Now you see, a ship like that is called a privateer, which apparently in Skull and Bones are the sworn enemy of pirates, and are specifically designed to hunt them down, and be almost like boss fights in their own right. So, since I don't really have much of a chance of fighting down that privateer, I go for the easier bait, and sink that ship, which to be fair also has the exact kind of equipment that I need to begin with to craft my ship, so it all works out. Once I head back to the safety of one of the islands, it has one of those endgame content rooms once again, which serves as my office. So, after I bow out, and after a very long journey back to the Red Isle, I finally end up back home, where I finally craft that new ship I had always wanted, which is pretty cool. I mean, you know, it has 2 sails just like the last one, but it's just as cool. And to test it out, I go ahead and take on one of the boss ships that I said I wasn't going to do earlier. Now you see, this ship in particular is an actual contract you can take out for it, being a Farah admiral that apparently has been wreaking absolute havoc on the sea people. Although I can't imagine how they are, considering they comically fire off their cannons one by one, and all I'm doing is bracing to take no damage. In fact, their ship is so comical, my crew is like lobbing Molotov cocktails directly at them and slowly just whittling down their health. All of these little red points on the side of the ship represent critical hit points, where if you hit them, it does a lot of damage. And I'm slowly destroying this boss ship one flag at a time. And even though they call for reinforcements and additional fire warships arrive, even that's not enough to stop me. Somehow I'm actually able to board the boss ship, which is really cool, and I wish I could get more out of it, like the ship itself, but I settle for getting that person's head, apparently, and collect a bunch of loot and a treasure chest in the process. And so, to celebrate my victory, I head to an island called the Mother of Shipwrecks, where I appreciate that I'm not one of them. In fact, one of the contracts on this mission allows me to complete it right then and there. So, I send in the loot I was supposed to, and collect a little bit of silver and some goodies on the side. There's another corrupt compagnie officer, at which point I wonder if there's any, like, actual legitimate ones, and set sail once I collect a quest from him. Now you see, once I'm finally back on the endgame content quest, I land on an island that is really Shrek Swamp this time, but also it serves a practical matter of helping me advance that endgame quest. Now you see, this quest allows me to finally buy sugarcane, which I can later use in a future video to go ahead and craft and produce more White Skull rum, which is a special endgame product you can use to trade around for smuggling missions and then get special premium endgame currency that you can only get through those missions. While on a regular mission though, to deliver some ale to Fort Louis, which is nearby, I go ahead and collect it from my cache that's just hanging out on the beach again, and I go ahead and set sail once more, this time with all that sugarcane I was supposed to buy, and a little bit of ale alongside too, which, as far as I'm concerned, not only makes for a good pirate life, but it makes for a good life too. So, if you like this adventure, just like my own pirate, crack open a keg of ale, and have some fun.